Let me feel your love again.
Yo, what is going on, PAPAFAM? Welcome to day 2 of the 5-day eBay Next.js 13 challenge. It's been wild so far. We've got over 1,000 homework submissions that we're going to talk about in just a second. But today we're going to go ahead and start the eBay clone build. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Let me know where you're tuning in from right now. If you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, drop a comment down below. Make sure you smash the like button. Let's go ahead and kick things off for day 2 of the Next.js 5-day challenge. I see the chat rolling in. We have over 3,500 people. 3,500 people signed up to this event. That's nuts. Let alone all the people that are going to watch afterwards. We can see William from Kenya. We got Dubai in the house. We got UK in the house. We got Switzerland, Uzbekistan. Yo, what's going on, guys? Australia, Tanzania. Welcome to day 2 of the eBay challenge. Let's kick it. Hey, Ethiopia, Fawaz, Nigeria. This is what I'm talking about. This is the energy we're going to be rolling with today. It's going to be a ton of coding today, so get ready. Make sure you got your water. I've definitely got mine. Let's go ahead and jump into this right now. So welcome to day 2 of the eBay challenge, guys. I'm going to go ahead and kickstart things off. Let me know right now if you're excited for this by commenting I'm ready, right? Let me know if you've already signed up by heading over to papareact.com/challenge and all that good stuff. So I'm going to show you a quick demo of what we're building today. But essentially, we're building out the front end and the authentication portion of today's build. So I want you to go ahead and check out a little preview of today's video, right? So we're going to go ahead and build out this front end page, in particular, this screen, right? So we're going to go ahead and be able to pull things from our NFT collection contract, and we're going to go ahead and actually initialize everything that we need to go ahead and build out the entire platform. So this page is entirely responsive. So we're going to go ahead and have this completely react to the user's screen size. So that way it works on phones, it works across all of our devices. We're also going to have authentication. So as you can see at the top, we've got connect your wallet. So we're going to go ahead and be able to connect our wallet, which is going to allow us to connect our MetaMask account, right? So in this case, we've got our dev account A5. You can see it's there. If I switch account, you'll see it goes ahead and switches at the top, right? So lots of cool and amazing stuff to be coming in your way today, right? So let's go ahead and run through day 2, what I wanted to get out of the way, and before we jump into the coding, right? So what we're going to learn today, you guys are going to jump into reactjs. We're going to cover Next.js. Like I said, it's going to be Next.js 13. So the latest and greatest stuff is being used. We're using Thirdweb to power up our smart contracts. We've got MetaMask to be our wallet, and we've got Tailwind CSS to allow us to have a responsive app. Okay, so lots of cool stuff, guys. And if you haven't already, join the 9,300 members on our Discord server. The energy was actually incredible from you guys over at the Discord server. People were helping each other out. The community aspect has been bigger than ever in this challenge, and it's going off and popping off on Facebook as well. Even though, I'll be honest, I don't like the new Facebook layout, but that's another topic, right? But join us at Discord. For me, it's a lot easier on Discord. Right? So if you need help with your homework, Facebook group, Discord is the place to be. There's over 8,000 people that can help you out over in that group right now. And if you want to, head over to papareact.com/course to jump into our flagship course, 0 to Full Stack Hero, and kickstart your learning right now, right? Join our Facebook group, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram at SSSSanga. Links are all in the description. Right, and if you haven't already, remember, there is a massive amount of free goodies that we're giving away in this challenge. All you have to do is hit the link in the description and sign up to the challenge. Because a lot of you are saying, when do I get my freebies, all that kind of stuff. I don't know unless you sign up for the challenge, right? So the link is in the description. It's actually the first one in the description. You're going to get all of the good ebooks, right? So we've got 3 goodies, right? So the 3 different ebooks. We've got the PAPAFAM playlist, and we've got 2 free courses. Just giving it away, right? All this stuff is being given away. So loads of people tuning in right now. Amazing stuff. I love the energy. I love to see this, guys. Now, how do you get points for this challenge? Quick run through. We get 1 point for liking, subscribing, all that good stuff on YouTube. And you guys can see the love was flying today from yesterday's challenge, right? So honestly, incredible. Just keep that energy going for these 5 days, and I promise you it's going to be one hell of a good time, right? 2 points for tagging me in your stories. There's so many people tagging me in their stories. It's so sick to see. I like to see like who's behind the camera and that kind of stuff. DEVime was sharing across social media. It's so nice to see, right? Hashtag Papa Challenge is how I'm going to pick you up on that. 3 points if you help people with homework. Now, this was actually banging, right? Bao Segan helping Sistine out with their homework in the Facebook group. We had Adam helping out Goldmai. We had loads of different people helping each other out across even Discord. I see you guys on Discord, especially when people were finding it hard to go ahead and get the test cryptocurrency. I could see everyone jumping in, helping each other out. That's what it's about, right? Papitra is in the house. What is up? Right, 4 points for referring other people to the eBay challenge. So I can see you guys, Fola over there, and we had another WhatsApp group being shared. So it's so cool to see. Abdul, thank you for sharing. We see you guys, and we're monitoring everything, right? And 5 points if you submit your homework on each of the days, right? So again, as I mentioned, every time you submit your homework, right, which bear in mind, 1,000 people submitted their homework. I was mind blown when I checked the Airtable today. Actually crazy, right? So 5 points for everyone who submits, right? The links are all in the Facebook group or in the description. Wherever you want to go ahead, you can see, right? So you can find those links. Now, yesterday's homework was to customize your portfolio, set up your NFT marketplace and your contract, your marketplace contract. So your NFT collection and your NFT marketplace contract. So you should be at a point where you see a Thirdweb NFT collection contract and a eBay marketplace contract, right? You can name them whatever you want, but one's a marketplace contract, one is a NFT collection contract. So you should have two different addresses. If you don't have this, it's very simple. Head over to Thirdweb, click start building, connect your wallet, and then you can go ahead and deploy your the two different types of contracts. So one was the NFT collection, one was the marketplace, right? So that's going to help you out when you need to go ahead and get started for today. We cover all of that in yesterday's video, okay? Now, we received over 1,000 homework submissions. It was so cool to see. So thank you all for sending it in. Let's go ahead and check out some of your best portfolio submissions. So if you see yourself, I want you to go crazy, right? Because honestly, I was very impressed with a lot of this stuff that was happening yesterday with the portfolio submissions. We've got Bao, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it right, Hawkinson. His was sick. I loved it. And we got Ali Mora using our modern portfolio. So I saw a lot of you were using the modern portfolio. Really nice to see. Alexandru, I see you, bro. We got Lewis Ryan coming in clutch. I see the different color schemes. And this was my favorite by far. James Tutul, right? Or Tutul, I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. James, your portfolio, well done, bro. I'm gonna show it in just a second, right? Absolutely crushed it. If you see yourself, this is 10 points extra for anyone on the screen right now. We had Willies, Ogola, we had Kaushik, Rihan. Kaushik is very nice design. Only thing I would say is it's kind of hard to read your name when you have that kind of backdrop. So maybe add a layer of transparency or like an opaque or kind of a glass effect. It's kind of cool way, like you did up here. Maybe have that here. We've got Rayhan with awesome stuff. Tazib, I actually really like this one. Very clean, aesthetic. And Mahfouz, dude, I see you in Discord, absolutely crushing it. So thank you for being an awesome member of the challenge. So congrats to everyone who got mentioned. 10 bonus points to all you, right? Well done. And the rest of you, if you go ahead and get mentioned in upcoming days, again, you can get a chance of getting 10 extra points, right? So again, I'm just going to quickly run through the prizes that you can win in this challenge, which is why you're all here. You want to go ahead and win some free goodies. First place, Papa Diamond membership plus $500. So lots of amazing stuff to come, right? You got mentorship calls, all that good stuff you see on the screen right now. Second place, Platinum membership plus $250. Third place, GitHub repo plus 50% off coupons. So lots of amazing prizes to win in this thing, in this challenge. And I'm going to mention it right now, and I'll say it every single time. This is the best damn coding family on YouTube, period. Right? So you guys can see that throughout this challenge through the help and support that everyone goes ahead and gives. Right? So let's go ahead and jump into some code. Let's get into the juicy stuff. I want to go ahead and actually get my hands into some code right now so we can go ahead and build awesome app like this, right? But before we do that, just check this portfolio out, right? James Tutul, honestly, my dude, I take my hat off to you. This is so clean, right? I really like the design here. He's even done a dark theme, light theme, and I love the transition. It's just smooth, right? So jamestutul.dev, and I love this bit, right? That is just small details for me that just mean everything, right? This is an absolutely clean portfolio. Well done, dude, on smashing that portfolio submission. Now, as I mentioned before, homework links are in the description, right? Today, you're going to go ahead and actually deploy that front end build once we're done. If you get stuck on anything, head over to Facebook group, sign up, And yeah, let's just go ahead and kickstart the build, right? So what I want to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and show you guys some new music we've got going on inside of the PAPAFAM playlist. And again, you will get this PAPAFAM playlist by just signing up to the challenge. So make sure you do if you like all the music, that kind of stuff. But without further ado, let's just dive into some code, guys. So I want you to go ahead, and I typically head over to tailwindcss.com, and the guides, you've got a Next.js guide. This is my go-to for starting off a project, right? So what I want you to do is go ahead and follow along. Now, remember, this is all going to be up on YouTube afterwards, so don't freak out if I move fast, or if you want to go ahead and get a replay, it's all going to be up afterwards, so you can feel free to take your time afterwards. Just enjoy the show, right? Pabichi says, every time I learn from Sunny Live, it makes me motivated to learn and practice more. That's what I'm talking about. I love that. Thank you, right? Let's go ahead and kickstart things off, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up my terminal, and let's make this a bit bigger. Let's go into our documents folder. You don't need to do this, right? I just like to keep things organized. And then we're going to go ahead and paste in that command. Now we're going to change my project for, I'm going to call this one the eBay clone YouTube, right? Now notice what's happening here. Create Next app is going to go ahead and create a Next template app, right? So it's going to be a template Next.js app. -E is basically going to use an example or a template, which sets us up with Tailwind CSS. So it does all this setup for us. This is going to give us a Next.js app. Hit enter. It's going to give us a Next.js app with Tailwind CSS and with TypeScript all set up for us. Click Y to go ahead and allow the install, right? So once this is done, we'll get a starter template that we can go ahead and kickstart our project from. As I mentioned, we are using Next.js, we are using Tailwind CSS, and we're going to be using, obviously, React is under the hood of all of that, okay? So this stuff is all going to be amazing for you to go ahead and add to your skill set. So if you know this or if you don't, it's going to be really handy for you. Once that's done, you should see this. We're going to go ahead and CD into our clone. So we're going to say eBay clone YouTube, hit enter, and I want to go ahead and type in code dot, okay? And this will open up our code editor. This is basically where we're going to go ahead and build out the app, right? So what I want you to do now is, as you can see on the screen, I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so that way it's a bit easier for you guys to follow along with me. If you didn't get that code command, download VS Code, and when you're on VS Code, Command-Shift-P and type in shell, right? And then I'm using the beta edition, that's why you see Code Insiders, but yours will say install code command in path. You can just go ahead and do that, then that command will work for you. You just have to restart your terminal. Okay, so Norden, I see you, bro. What's up, man? Yeah, so this is basically going to be the way that you get your workspace set up, or you can go ahead and, if you really need to, just go ahead and open up workspace, open up folder, and you can find your folder. So this is your starting point for the build today, okay? So what I need you to do is also head over to your extensions, and I want you to go ahead and install the Tailwind CSS IntelliSense add-on. Right, so this extension is going to help us out when we're coding out our Tailwind CSS. And I want you to go ahead and, in addition, add in something called the ES7 snippets. So this extension right here. So it's a really damn good extension. I swear to God, when I first started using it, it was like 500,000. Now it's 6 million. Right, so I hope I have some input on that. But this is going to be basically allowing us to create our functional components really fast, which is in turn is going to help us do things a hell of a lot quicker, right? So we're going to go into our files right now, head over to pages, and we're going to go down to index.tsx. Now I'm going to break things down as if you don't know Next.js, so it's going to be kind of very beginner friendly. What Next.js does really nicely is inside the pages folder, it will literally go ahead and based on that file name, that will be a route, a page route that we can go ahead and navigate to on our website. So index.tsx is our starting point. So if we go to, I'm going to kickstart things up by hitting Command J, and I'm going to go ahead and actually start my app, right? So I'm going to go ahead and Command J opens up your terminal, and to run our Next.js app, I'm going to do yarn run dev. Now I'm using yarn because mine says yarn lock. If yours says package lock, you're going to use npm run dev, right? It's completely fine. It's up to you which one you're going to use or which one's on your system. Just make sure you're not overlapping. So if you do end up switching, just delete the lock file for the other one, right? So we're going to do yarn run dev to start our app, and this will run things on localhost 3000. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show this on the screen right now so we can jump into this very nicely. Okay. So once you've done that, you should see this on your screen, right? Welcome to Next.js. This is your starter template. So what I'm going to do, just to help us get a bit efficient, I'm going to go ahead and pop this on this screen. So that way we can have a nice coding setup next to us as we do our thing. Command B, Command J to hide things. So this is what you should see. I'm going to go ahead and neaten things up. We don't actually need that type definition right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and inside of this div, I'm going to delete everything. Right, so everything down to the footer, delete it. And also go ahead and delete the class names. So that way we've got a fresh start. Type in H1 and say, let's build eBay. All right, so let's build eBay, done. Now you've got a fresh, clean slate that we can go ahead and do our thing from, right? So we can go ahead and get rid of everything. You can keep the head tag. I'm not going to keep it for now. I'm going to keep it very simple so that way we can go ahead and start from absolute scratch. Now you might have seen there was a bunch of stuff in the class name, right? What that is Tailwind CSS's utility classes. So Tailwind CSS allows us to basically write these short class names that then go ahead and turn into actual CSS. The benefit of this is it allows us to write CSS really fast, and it allows us to do it in a responsive way. So we can change it based on the different screen sizes and so forth. So through this build, you're going to see the power of Tailwind CSS. If you want to know more about their tech, head over to tailwindcss.com. Okay. So let's go ahead and kick things off. So first thing I want you to do is we're going to go ahead and actually set up Thirdweb. Now I'm going to show you as if I didn't know what's going on right now, as if I'm brand new to this and what I would have done, right? Because I think it's always a better way than having everything dialed in and perfectly sort of set up. So I'm going to open up this and type in Thirdweb, and simply what I would do is I'll just write Thirdweb documentation, easy as documentation for React, right? And then you should be able to go ahead and see Thirdweb React SDK. And I'm doing this every single time so that way you can see from scratch, right? So in this case, you can see they've got this command. I'm not going to use that because we're already set up, but we need to go ahead and install the SDK into our existing app. So you can see Thirdweb dev, React, Thirdweb dev, and we need ethers. ethers. So I'm using React yarn. So I'm going to copy this line right here. I'm going to go over to my code, and I'm going to go ahead and get this up and running. So let's go ahead, Command J. And you see here, we've got our terminal open, right? So I'm going to open up another. I like to split, but right now we're on one screen. So I'm going to have my running terminal here, and I'm going to have this over here. I'm going to do Command V to paste in, and then I'm going to install the dependencies. So this goes ahead and allows me to go ahead and have all the dependencies to use Thirdweb in my project, right? So that's going to sort of allow us to get things up and running. Now, this is the first step. Now, whenever we use something like Thirdweb or Stripe or any of these other things, we tend to follow something called a higher order component pattern. And what this means is our app is essentially in the middle, and we wrap it in a provider. And that provider basically passes down all that cool stuff like Thirdweb tech, all that kind of stuff into our app, anything below that point in the tree, right? So as you can see here, we've got our app, and then we've got Thirdweb's provider, which allows us to then use all of the cool Thirdweb stuff inside of the app, right? So it's called a provider pattern because it's providing the functionality downward, right? So in this case, let's go ahead and see if it's done. So that's going to take a second. Demo gods always against me when we do this, right? But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and type in, go to our _app.tsx. Now in Next.js, all of our basically components, our pages, render off of this, right? So _app.tsx is kind of the starting point. So if we want to add a provider, we tend to add it here, okay? So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to take this code snippet, this one right here. So first I'm going to import, and while it hasn't been installed, it's going to throw an error. It will go away in just a second. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy in this line right here. So I'm actually going to wrap this in the parentheses. I'm going to drop this down a line, and then I'm going to paste this in, and I'm going to close it out, right? So Thirdweb provider, there we go, hit save. And this is going to be our essentially starting point, right? Now, something to pay attention to is you can see chain ID.mainnet, okay? Now, this is basically going to be a very important step, right? So when we use any kind of blockchain technology, there are different networks that we can actually go ahead and use. So in yesterday's case, we use something called the Gurley network, which is the sort of test Ethereum network. Now we are going to use a testnet, and it really doesn't matter if you only use Gurley or if you only use the Mumbai Polygon network or any of the others like Solana. In this case, we're going to be using Mumbai today because it's easier to get test Ethereum or Testmatic, right? So it's easier to go ahead and get the sort of test currency that we're after to get things up and running. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we do that in today's video. So in this case, chain ID dot, and you can see we've got a bunch of different options. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and type in Mumbai, And this is actually going to be the Polygon network that we're going to be using. Now, we are going to use a little kind of trick, right? As we're going to be using this a bunch throughout, and we want this to stay consistent, I want you to go ahead and press Command B, head over to your package.json at that level, and I want you to basically create a new folder. And inside of here, we're going to call it utils. And this is going to contain any kind of useful functions that we might want to use later on, right? So inside of here, I'm going to type in network.ts. Okay, .ts. All right. Now, inside of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and have a snippet of code with our import statement, and we're going to export the type of network that we're going to use. And now the reason for this is that way throughout my entire app, rather than constantly importing it, using it, it may lead to me inconsistently using it, the wrong network at certain points in the app. So I want to keep it consistent. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and import that. So I can go ahead and say import my network from, and it's a default, so we can name it whatever the hell we want. This could be anything. We're going to import that from our util, right? So in this case, I'm going to go up to my utils and into network. And what we can do now is rename this to network, right? And what I need you to do is go ahead, save the file, make sure your dependency installed. So ours is successfully installed. And then I need you to go back over to your localhost, refresh, and make sure that you're still seeing what you had in the beginning, right? So in this case, yeah, there we go. So this is still looking fresh, right? Let's build eBay, right? So everything seems to be working at this point. So heading over to index.tsx, you can see we've got let's build eBay working right now. And everything's here. So if you've done your provider pattern correctly, you'll still see this, right? Otherwise, you'll forget an error or any of that kind of stuff. So if you do get an error at that point, Mateus says, good morning, what's up, dude? If you do get an error at that point, like I said, screenshot it, ask the Facebook group, Discord group for help, and get the support you need to overcome it. Don't quit, right? The worst thing you can do is quit. Right? So at this point, we're looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on. Now, I'm going to go ahead and actually pull out, I've actually deployed my app on a separate Vercel link. I'm going to go ahead and show you. And for this one, what I'm going to do is to prevent people from spamming it, I'm actually going to take a screenshot of it, and then I'm going to go ahead and use this as my reference screenshot. Okay. So in this case, we've got a screenshot. I've got it now. Now what I'm going to do is use this as a reference. So this is essentially what I'm building right now, okay? So we're gonna start things off with the header component. And then we're gonna go ahead and do the authentication aspect. And then we're gonna build out this bit, and we're gonna start pulling data in from our NFT marketplace, our NFT collection, okay? So let's go ahead and do this now. Okay, we can leave that there in the back, that's fine. Okay, so at this point, what I want you to do is, and you know what I'm gonna do actually, I'm gonna go ahead and save this now so that way I can use it in a nicer way, because right now it's kind of just floating on my screen and I don't like that, right? So let me go ahead and open this out. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm pumping it on a different screen. Okay, let's move. Nice. Right, so in this case, we've got our reference screen here, and then we've got our code over here. So the first thing I want to do is focus on the header component. So everything in React is pretty much component, right? So everything is component based. So in this case, we're going to build out this section right now called the header, right? So what I want you to do, Command B, and I want you to go to your package.json level. And I do this because I want you to create the folder at the right level, right? Hit the folder button, and we're going to type in components. Now on components, I'm going to create a header.tsx file. Right, so this is where our header is going to live. Now, what I want you to do is we're going to use that nice little snippet that I told you about earlier to go ahead and initialize our component. So in this case, we're using TypeScript. So we can say TypeScript React functional component that we're going to go ahead and export. Right, so you can see it's actually quite cool. And you even have an arrow function, whatever you want to do. In that case, I hit enter, and bam, just like that, it creates the functional component for me with our TypeScript definitions already attached to the props, right? So it kind of saves us a lot of time when we're coding. This is kind of a nice little trick that you should know about, right? So at this point, I'm going to say I am the header, right? Hit save, and then I'm going to go into my index.tsx, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it in. So I'm going to type in header. And you can see here, if we head to the end of the line, control spacebar, we can go ahead and actually do a smart import into our editor just like this, right? So it looks very clean. And now we can see I am the header. So we can get rid of the h1 tag, and now we can start coding on the header component and start seeing the effect that it's going to have. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is it, and it's also going to be a fully responsive header that you're going to be seeing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you right now. The one that we're going to go ahead and build is going to be a fully responsive. Let me go ahead and make sure that something's not going to pop up, right? Let's go ahead and see. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be a fully responsive header component. So as it gets smaller, you can see it goes ahead and works really beautiful and nicely, right? And you can see we've got CSS grid in play there. So it's going to be a 1 grid, 2 grid column, 3 grid, and 4 grid as it gets bigger. So I'm going to show you how to do all of this, right? And you see the headers dynamically changing, right? So really kind of quite cool stuff just from very simple code. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So what I want to do first is build out the, we're going to add a nav section, right? So the nav section is going to encapsulate the top half, and this is going to have the, all of this kind of section up here, this top portion, right? So we're going to go ahead and type in nav, and we've got our nav. And inside of this, we're going to have a div, and inside of my div, I'm going to go ahead and firstly have the wallet connection button, right? So this over here. So first up, I'm going to have a button, and this button would say like hi and the user's address, right? So in this case, it will be something like this. So if you're already signed in, it'll say hi. Otherwise, it would say connect your wallet, right? Connect your wallet. I'm going to show you how easy it is to do Web3 authentication using MetaMask and Thirdweb. It's honestly like crazy simple to add in authentication, which is why honestly everyone is underestimating Web3 tech. It is damn powerful, guys. Stop underestimating it. It's going to be the big thing, and you're going to miss that gap, right, where you could have capitalized on it, right? So just trust me, trust the process. So at this point, what we're going to now do is we're going to go ahead and you can see connect your wallet is there. So I'm firstly going to style this up. It looks horrible. I'm going to make it look a bit better. So I'm going to give this a class name of connect wallet button. You're probably wondering, that's not a utility class. Well, in some cases, you want to reuse your CSS. So I'm going to show you how to create a custom utility class. So we're going to head over to our styles, globals.css, and inside of here, we can create a custom utility class. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say @layer. And this is how you do it. So we're going to inject our own custom class at the component layer. And we're going to call this one, as I mentioned before, connect wallet button. Right? Now, the way that you can start writing your Tailwind CSS in this file is you have to write the keyword @apply. Then you can write your Tailwind CSS as you would have normally done anyway. Right? So in this case, I've got a bunch of different rules that I want to go ahead and apply, or utility classes. I'm going to go ahead and pop those in right now. So we're changing the background button, the background to blue, and you can see this shade is also here. So if I go ahead and show you right now, you get different shades. So we're going to use 500, make the text white, font bold, padding on the y-axis of 2, padding on the x-axis of 4, rounded corners, and cursor pointer, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. And as you can see, it's kicked in very nicely, right? So you can go ahead and use that to create a really nice kind of button, right? And it's just very simple. Now we've got our own custom class that we can go ahead and use in order to get things up. Quick little water break, smash the like button if you're enjoying the video right now. We have over 300 people across different platforms watching right now. Okay. Let's move. Okay, so at this point, what I need you to do is go ahead and we're going to go ahead and actually set up the wallet connection. So right now, you can see we haven't got a connection to our wallet. It's very simple to actually fix this. So what I need you to do is we're going to go ahead and pull in a few dependencies that we're going to rely on in just a sec. Okay, so we're going to pull in the use address, use disconnect, and use MetaMask hooks from Thirdweb's React SDK. Right, hit save. And now what I want you to do is we're going to actually create instances so that way we can actually call these nice hooks, right? So we're going to go ahead and say const connect with MetaMask. And this is going to go ahead and use the use MetaMask hook. Okay, so very simple. And then we're going to have the same thing for a disconnect. We're going to go ahead and say use disconnect equals use, something like so. And then for the address as well. So the address will tell us if the user is signed in, because it will be no if they're not signed in. So 3 very handy hooks, very simple to go ahead and use. So now what we can do is, if the address is no, we can actually go ahead and conditionally render the connect your wallet button. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if there is an address I'm going to go ahead and use a ternary operator here. So a ternary operator is like an if-else statement, okay? So if there is an address, we're going to render something here. Otherwise, we're going to render out a button, okay? And in this case, I'm going to have another button here, which is going to go ahead and say hi, right? So this will say hi, and then I'm going to have the wallet address, right? So in this case, let's just go ahead and put the address, right? Okay. So at this point, you can see I am signed in, right? So my wallet is connected to this website because it's my local host. So I am logged in at this address. Okay. Now what I want to do is, it's very simple. If I click that, firstly, let's make it look like a button. So we're going to use our handy utility class that we talked about earlier. Bam, just like that. And you can see right now, if I click this, I want it to log me out. If I click, so it should log me out. How do we do that? Well, I simply go ahead and say on click, and I can just simply do disconnect. I can call disconnect. Now, if I click it, bam, I'm now logged out, right? So super crazy, simple stuff, right? So look at this. Norden says, why am I coding in TypeScript? TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. It allows us to reduce the number of bugs in our code by basically type checking all of our code, right? So it shows out if we make those errors that we shouldn't be otherwise be letting through in JavaScript. So that's why we're using it. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and allow us to authenticate ourselves. So we're going to say on click, connect with the MetaMask. Right. So connect with the MetaMask just like that. Now, if I click it, you can see I'm signed in. If I click it, I'm not signed in. So there you go, right? It works really well. For the first time you click it, it will actually pop up saying authenticate. Right now, I've already authenticated, so it's just gonna work. So it's very quick to sign in and handle authentication. If you wanna switch accounts, it's so easy. You literally go to your MetaMask, you change your actual account, so create 2 wallets to test this out, and you can see that's how Web3 authentication works. Very simple authentication protocols in Web3, okay? So there you go. Now this address is way too long. I don't like it. Instead, what I'm going to do is a nice little trick to show the first 5 characters and the last 5 characters. The way you do this is you say address slice, and you say from the first character up until the 5th character. Then I'm going to do a ... and then I'm going to have the address slice, and from the last to the 5th character, or the last 4 characters, right? So this basically -4 says from the last character go back 4. So this is how you basically do that little trick where you show a bit at the beginning, a bit at the end, right? Kind of a nice way of doing it. And this, I'm being a bit OCD right now. I want to make it even cleaner. There you go. So now we've got our nice little authentication portion done. So smash the like button if you learned something new there. Honestly, it's crazy simple, right? There's so much power behind that. It's underestimated. People are like, yeah, oh my God, but I need to have an authentication provider. That's how you do it, right? Honestly, it's as simple as that in Web3. This is why Web3 is going places. Like, trust me, don't underestimate it, right? Everyone wants to use the latest and greatest, like, you know, this other stuff, but trust me, Web3 is actually so powerful for what it is, okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and build our daily deals help and contact section as well. Right? So underneath the buttons inside of here, we're going to have 2 P tags. Okay. Now these P tags, we're going to have daily deals, and we're going to have help and contact. Help and contact. So help and contact. There we go. Hit save. And now you can see it's going to pop in. So I'm going to go ahead and make these responsive. So I want these by default to be hidden on a mobile view. Now, when we write our Tailwind CSS classes, everything is written mobile first, which means whenever I write a Tailwind CSS utility class, all of those utility classes are being applied from the smallest screen upward, right? Only if I write a breakpoint and then another utility class will it change adaptively as the screen gets bigger. So it starts off, everything is applicable to mobile, and then it changes only if I say when we hit a medium screen change. So in this case, I'm going to say it's hidden on mobile. So look at this. It's going to be hidden on small screens. So in this case, it's hidden. But if we go to a medium screen, if we hit a medium screen, I want it to become an inline flex element. Now, look what happens when our mobile is hidden. As we get to a medium screen, it shows. So you can see how we get this nice responsive dynamic behavior, right? I'm going to go pop this in sideways so we can see it just like that. Right, so I'm just going to move this over there so that way we get we can just see at least what's going on. All right. Now this div right now, we're going to go ahead and yeah, you can put a cursor pointer. I'm going to let you guys do that afterwards, but you could go ahead and just put a cursor pointer if you wanted to make it like a sort of a link. Right. Now for that div container, we're going to go ahead and make it a flex box. We're going to say the items should be central on the x-axis and then on the y-axis, sorry. And then we're going to space them out between each other from 2, a value of 2. If you give it 4, you can see it's going to go ahead and space out even more and so forth, right? So in this case, now what I'm going to do is also make it text a bit smaller, right? So that's looking pretty good so far. You can see it's kind of getting there, right? Now for the navigation, we're going to go ahead and style that out. We're going to say that this one should be a flex box and it should say justify between. Now, if you think about it, we've got 2 children here, right? So see what I did there. I'm going to go ahead and show you right now. We've got our overall nav, and then on the left-hand side, we've got our first element, and on the right-hand side, we've got this element here. Now that rule that I just wrote, the justify between rule, just pushes the space between them. So it justifies the space between the 2 children components, right? So in this case, as you saw here, we've got a nav. The first child is this div, right? So this div right here. And the second child is going to be another div, right? And this is going to be responsible for the ship to all this kind of stuff over there. Right? And we are going to be using hero icons as well in today's build. Okay, so at this point, what I need you to do is we're going to add in, for example, 3 different p tags. And the first one's going to say ship to, sell, and watch list, right? So ship to, sell, and watch list. I need some water. All right, quick little water break. Make sure you kind of, if you're coding along, don't blow yourself out. Literally just take your time, enjoy it. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So ship to, sell, and this one's going to say watch list. All right. So good stuff. And now if I show you what's actually going on, it says ship to, watch, sell, and watch list, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and style out my div. I'm going to say it should be a flex box, should be items centrally aligned. So you'll see it will drop to the center. We're going to give a space on the x-axis of 4. Okay. And then these should be small as well. So small. Nice. Right. I'm going to show you by zooming in over there what we're doing. Whoa, Yasin, thank you for the donation. Because if I want to be a React dev, is it okay to move on from vanilla JavaScript after learning the basics? Or am I moving on too quickly without just building stuff in vanilla JavaScript? I would say it's worth knowing the fundamentals of JavaScript before you dive further. But you don't need to just start building apps in JavaScript vanilla. You could kind of learn the fundamentals and then dive into some React. Either way, you're going to be learning. I would say it's probably worth doing at least one app. Another one. Oh, yeah. There we go. Nice little donation sound. All right. Thank you for the donation though. But yeah, I would say you could build, one app like a to-do list, kind of that kind of stuff. It's not, there's no rule to it, right? You could jump into some React and then kind of, either way, you're going to be learning and upgrading your JavaScript, right? So let's go ahead and continue on. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and say should be hidden. And again, I'm actually probably going to apply the same rule. So I could probably make a custom utility class here for this, right? So I'm going to say class name, and then here, I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. Okay, so again, it's hidden on a small screen for these elements, and then it shows it on a bigger screen. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and after that p tag, we're going to have a link element, and this is going to say add to inventory. And this is actually going to be a button afterwards that's going to take us to a different page. Okay. So this is going to be a Next.js link element. So in this case, I've got my link. So I've imported it from Next.js link, and link elements in Next.js 13 actually go ahead and I'm sure I'm using Next.js 13 right now. Yep, latest. There we go. So these actually render out A tags underneath them by default. So we can actually go ahead and pop in and say add to inventory, just like so. And we need to pass it an href. So in this case, an href, what is going to be add item. So we're going to eventually make a page called add item in a future day, not today. If I click it now, you'll see it'll take me to the add item page, which in this case we don't. It doesn't exist yet. So we're going to get 404. Okay. So at this point now we've got the link tag down, and I'm going to go ahead and have the bell icon and the shopping cart icon next to it. So at this point, we're going to quickly stop and install hero icons. So I'm going to go over to heroicons.com. and we're going to go ahead and pull this into our app. This is going to be responsible for all of the icons inside of our app. Hit documentation. Sujay says, can't you just make a utility class name? Yes, you can make it for the header links. Right. In fact, I'll do it right now. I'll show you how you can do that. Right. So quickly right here, we've got lots of repeated code. So this right here. So instead, what I can do is I can go ahead and call this something like header link. Go to my globals, call it header link, apply, and then paste it in. Oops. Just like that. Hit save. And just like that, now we have one snippet of code, which does the same thing rather than writing the same like repeated code, right? So hero icons, scroll down, and we're gonna go ahead and install this dependency. So Command J, yarn, add, hero icons, react, right? That will go ahead and pull it in for us. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and do a very simple import into our build to go ahead and pull in the icons that we're gonna need, okay? So at this point, we can go down to our add to inventory. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an actual icon here next to it. I'm going to have the chevron down icon. Okay. And for this, I am going to have a height of 4. So just like that, what you can see is it adds in a chevron icon. So what we can actually do here is we can style this out and we can go ahead and say that this is going to be a flex items center. And now you can see it goes centrally. And when we hover over it, I'm going to go ahead and give it something called the link class, right? Now I'm going to create this link class right now. It's going to be a custom utility class that we're going to go ahead and create. Okay, so I'm going to go into my globals. I'm going to go ahead and create a custom class right now. So very similar to what we did previously. And this is going to have a hover effect. So you see now we've got these cool modifiers such as hover, where when I hover over the text, it'll go text blue 500, it'll underline it, become a cursor pointer, and text gray 600. All right, so this is kind of handy. You see what's going on now. Now if I hover over it, I've got this handy link kind of aspect to it. And yes, you could give that to the rest of them if you want as well, right? Completely up to you. So looking good so far, guys. Now, next up, we're going to have the belt icon and the shopping cart icon beneath the link, and these are going to have a height and width of 6. Right, so hit save, and now just like that, you can see we've got our inventory, which is responsive, add to inventory, and we've got the icons at the top. Right, so looking pretty good so far. Quick little water break. My AC is like blasting right now. It's quite hot, so it makes it kind of dry in the office. Okay, so at this point, you can see we can connect our wallet. We've got the top UI looking pretty decent. So what I want to do now is underneath my nav, by the way, I'm going to have a horizontal line, right? That's going to be for afterwards. But what we tend to do here is we tend to go ahead and actually have a max width, right? So we tend to have a max width rather than allowing for this, right? We don't really want to have this kind of, spammed out kind of massive approach. Oh, sorry, I'm not showing the screen. Right, so in this case, we tend to go ahead and have a max width, whereas here it's kind of, it's not, it just looks ridiculous, right? So I'm going to go up to my div, and I'm going to say that the max width I'm going to allow for is their maximum template, which is 6XL. So if you hover over it, you'll see it's 72 rem. Okay, now if I do that, you can see it's a max width, but it's not centered. So to center it is very simple. You just say MX Auto. MX Auto, just like so. Okay, now it's nice and center, right? So it looks very good. And to give it a little bit of space and breathing room, we say padding of 2, and just like that, we have our top element right now, looking very good, very quick actually, right? Very, very quick. And this is the power of Tailwind CSS. Responsive design is easy using Tailwind CSS. Okay, so that's looking pretty good right now. So next up, we want to go ahead and have this right here. So the eBay logo, shop by category, search, and this over here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in the first element. We're actually going to call this a section. You can call it whatever you want. It could be, this is actually, I'm sorry, SEO tag purposes. My section, you can call it main, nav. You can, yeah, I'm not going to get into SEO, right? At this point inside, we're going to have a div, and we're going to have a link surrounding our image. Okay. So this is actually going to be taking us back to the home screen if you ever click the eBay icon. And then we're going to pull in the Next.js image tag. So you can see here the image tag from Next.js. Okay. So this image, I've gone ahead and shortened the URL to help you guys out. Right. And we are going to need to provide a few different things. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pass in the Auth, which is now mandatory in Next.js 13, the new source, which is links appropriate BDB, and then we've got width and height. Hit save. And and we get this error. Now this is because whenever we use the Next.js image tag, we have to go ahead and tell Next.js that the URL that we're pulling from, the domain, is whitelisted. So we're saying it's safe. That way Next.js can do its image optimization safely without kind of, just allowing any old image. So we're going to go over to our next config inside of our files, and we're going to go ahead and add in the following. We're going to say images, domains, and then you're going to have an array of URLs. So we're going to go ahead and add in this URL inside of there. And what this does is it's whitelisting it. It's saying that it's okay to go ahead and use that. So what we need to do is go into our terminal, and you see there's difference. We need to restart the server because we changed our next config file. Okay, hit refresh on our code on our screen. Once that's done, and we should see our code back in. Oh, invalid source. Oh, there we go. Nice. So we should see a massive eBay logo in just a sec. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Right. So you can see it's a little bit skewed, right? It doesn't look right. So what we can do here to fix that is we can go ahead and say, firstly, I want to do height and width of 4. I want to maximize this height and width of 4. And then I want to say object contain. Okay. And now you can see it's huge, right? So instead, I'm going to fix that. We're going to make it basically not look like that in just a second. Inside of the div, I'm going to go ahead and say class name, and this is going to be so we've got a div surrounding our image. Yeah, that's right. We're going to say it's relative because we're not doing the old HTML trick. Right, we're going to say height of 16 and a width of 16. Okay, there you go. So the box surrounding it has now got a height and width of 16, but I want it to increase in size as it gets bigger. So I'm going to say on a small screen, I want the width to then change to 28. On a medium screen, I want it to then change to 44. Right, so now what happens, as it gets bigger, you'll see that eBay logo just filling its space up. Okay, so a very simple kind of approach to this. And then we're going to say the cursor should be a pointer to resemble that it's clickable, and then we're going to say flex shrink. So I want this to never shrink in terms of size based on the other elements. So there you go. If I click it, it takes me back to the home page. We're already on the home page, so it looks good. Okay. So at that point, we're going to go ahead and move into the next element, the button. Right. So this button right here, and this button is going to have a P tag and a chevron. Right. So down here, I'm going to have a chevron down icon like this. And the P tag is going to resemble the shop by category. And what we're doing here is we're building out this element here, the shop by category. Okay, shop by category. There you go. So it looks huge right now. So let's go ahead and style this out. So class name, we're going to give it a height of 4. And I don't want this to shrink if it gets tight in a different space. Right. Now you can see right now over here, this is not in line, right? So it's like stacked up because it's in line. We're going to go ahead and say flex. And then we're going to center it on the y-axis by saying items center. Okay, that looks a bit cleaner. And space them out between the two, and then give it a fixed width of 20. So that way it wraps. And on the small screen, I actually want to hide this. I only want to show this on large screens. So there you go. On a mobile, it's hidden. On a large screen, it will be shown. Okay. So that's already looking better. Let's go ahead and style this out a little bit. We're going to say the text should be gray with a value of 600, and I want it to be small. Okay. So now let's go back over there, and we can see that it's small, and there you go. It's looking a bit better. All right. Okay. So with that done, we're going to move on to the next div, which is the search. Now, this search is actually a nice little custom search field. So notice how this bit's typable. We've got a nice icon, and the whole thing is kind of in this, it looks a bit cleaner than the original kind of input, right? So Yoni says, I'm going to try catch up. Don't worry, dude. You can catch up with the challenge. It's completely fine. All these videos are up for you to go ahead and catch up, watch afterwards, right? So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a button. Right. 1 second. No, I've got messed up. I'm going to have a div which resembles our search field. So this div right here is going to have a magnifying glass icon, and it's going to have an input field. Right. So let's go and see it. Right. So you see it's pretty huge right now. Right. And let's give it a placeholder so you can actually see where that is. So I'm going to say search for anything. Hit save, and now you can see that's our input field. And we're going to make this look like that. Right? You're probably wondering, how the hell do we do that? All right, so I'll show you right now. So we go into our div and we're going to go ahead and say flex items should be on the central. You see, you learn Flexbox, right? It's going to help you out a lot. Head over to Flexbox Froggy, or if you want to know by me, then head over to papareact.com/course. Right? So space X of 2, padding X of 2, and on the bigger screen, I want to change the padding to a bit of a bigger value. Padding Y of 2, there you yep, the padding Y of 2. And then we're going to give it a border black. So in this case, a border black, border 2, and I'm going to give it a flex 1. Right? And I'll show you what all this does in a second. Flex 1 basically ensures that this middle child will take up the maximum amount of space that it can. Okay. Okay. So at this point, for the input, we're going to go ahead. And firstly, that magnifying glass icon is screwing everything up. So width of 5, and I'm going to make it gray. So text gray of 400. There you go. Hit save. And look at it, just immediately changes everything, right? So there you go. So, and you see we've got this nasty outline. So I'll show you how we fix that. And also notice how it's not taking up the full space. So to fix that, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and say that this should be flex 1. And now you can see that it's got using up the full space. And then you want to do outline none, and that gets rid of it. And there you go. We've got a custom search field, right? So as everything right now is stacked up. So you can see if we actually made this full screen, it's all stacked up as inline elements. We're going to flex the entire div afterwards and then make it all come together. The final part of this is actually the search and list item buttons. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So first up, we've got the search button. So we're going to have a button, and this is going to say search. And then we've got another button, and this one is going to say list item. Okay. Now, oops, item. Now the list item button is actually going to be a clickable button. So it's going to have a link element to it. And if you're wondering what the hell this link element is, Next.js has clever ways, and it's going to go to a create page, sorry. It has very clever ways of pre-fetching pages if we use those link elements. So not only is it an efficient way to navigate between pages, it's the right way when using Next.js, it has clever things behind the scenes. So if it sees a link element, it pre-fetches that page and it can do quite cool things like that. So that way it has this seamlessly instant experience, right? So for the search button, what we're now going to do is we're going to go ahead and say, we're going to go ahead and 1 second. So we're going to go ahead and start to, so I'm going to say that the search button should be hidden by default on small screens. On bigger screens, I'm going to say it should be an inline BG blue 600. Okay. The text should be white. Padding X of 5. So we're going to see right now. Let's go ahead and see. There you go. We start getting there looking pretty good. I'm actually going to show you this so that way you can see what's happening. So let me move that there. Okay, so we've got this going on. Padding X of 5. I'm going to give it on the bigger screen a little bit of a bigger padding. Padding Y of 2, so that way it's not so kind of cornered in. Round the corners off. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and do. No, I'm not rounding the corners off. I want it kind of, clean like that. I've already given it we're going to give it a border of 2 and a border blue of the same color. And the reason I'm doing that is that way there's not this weird gap once I've got the outlined element next to it. So you'll see in just a second why I've done that. So for this one, it's going to be the kind of inverted color, right? So I want to go ahead and say it's a border 2. And this one's going to say border blue of 600. And then padding X of 5. So same rules apply. On the bigger screen, it's going to say padding X of 10. Padding Y of 2 to space it out a little bit more. Nice. You can see that. It's looking pretty good. I'm building these 2 buttons right here. Right? And then we're going to say when we hover over this, firstly, let's change the text color. So I want it to be text blue 600. When I hover over it, I want the background to change. So background should become blue 600, but I kind of want it a bit lighter. So when you do 600, if you put a / and say 50, it's going to be that color, but at 50% opacity, right? Then we're going to say hover, the text should become white and a cursor pointer. Bam, hit save. Now look at that, clean. How nice that is. Super, super clean stuff, right? So at this point, we've done our sort of, our UI elements here, but this doesn't look like this. So very simple to actually go ahead and convert that, right? What we actually go ahead and do is we simply head over to our entire section and we simply add some styling, right? So it's very easy to do this. We say class flex items center, hit save, and you see everything goes into a line, space x of 2. And because we've designed it correctly using flex rules, you see how it's just spacing things out the way it should, right? It's not weird, it's not awkward. Padding y of 5. And just like that, guys, look at that. Right, look how it comes together when you just add the right rules, right? So on the phone looks pretty good. We can connect our wallet and the header's starting to look banging, right? Just crazy, right? The amount of power that you have with Tailwind CSS, right? As it all pulls together. Super, super clean. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that little segment, right? So Jacoby says, nice. Exactly, dude. Really, really cool once you see it come together. Right, Papi just says smooth. Exactly, guys, really looking good, right? So horizontal row underneath to kind of, you know, finish it off. And then we've got a section underneath. This bit's actually quite easy. We've got a section and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different links, right? So section P times 12, Emmet is clutch, right? Hit save. And then this is going to be responsible for these links underneath here, okay? Now I'm going to show you how we actually decided to go forward with this. So you can see I've actually made it sort of hide a bunch of links as it gets smaller and so forth, right? So we're going to go ahead and do that with this. So in this case, we've got home, electronics, computer. And then in fact, I'm actually going to go ahead and pop these in and explain it instead. So we save a bit of time, right? So you can see here, what we've done is we're using that link custom component that we talked about earlier. And what we're doing is we're saying for some of them, they're hidden. All of these are hidden by default, right? These ones right here on mobile. But you see only certain ones are so these pop in smaller screens and above. These popping in on the medium screens. These are popping in on the large screens. And these are popping on the extra large screens, right? And more is always there, okay? Now what you can see is that effect has a very nice kind of cool little kind of growth, right? You see that, look, it just pops in as and when it kind of needs to. Right? But the way to make this kind of pull in is you go to your overall section and you say flex, and now it kind of pops into a line. Padding y of 3, give it a bit of breathing space. Space them out, so space between each of the components of 6, and you can see it starts to come together quite nicely. Let's make them a bit smaller. They don't need to be that big, right? And on a medium screen, I actually want to kind of make it a little bit bigger, but still quite small. And then I'm going to say white space, no wrap. That means that if anything needs to go ahead and kind of, you know, wrap around, so like collectibles and art, for example, it won't wrap, it will just stay on the same line, okay? And then what I need to do is, you see this is not central. So I say justify center to pull it into the center, padding X of 6 to make sure that we've got a bit of spacing on the sides. And just like that, guys, bam. And look how clean that is, right? It's absolutely crazy. And I know I went pretty quick, but it's because it's going to be up on YouTube afterwards. So you can feel free to take your time, watch it through, pause as you need to, right? So this is looking really, really clean so far, right? So I'm going to quickly have a little water break, and then we're going to move over to the main bit, which is this element right here. How the hell do we load in items from our marketplace and all of that good stuff? Okay, so quick little water break. Make sure you smash the like button. Everyone is absolutely loving it so far. And as I mentioned, we have over 300 people across all these different platforms watching them right now. Okay, let's keep going. So somebody says it gives space between child. Okay, so the reason, I think there's a bit of confusion between space X when I use that, right? So this space X of 6 actually gives space of 6 between these child components, right? So that's what it's doing. So if I gave it space X of 2, see how it gets smaller, right? That's what it's doing right there. Okay. So at this point, we're now going to go ahead. The header's done. It's fully responsive and it's so clean, right? It's just wrapped up into this tiny little header component, right? Jana G says, hi, Zane, joining after my classes ended ASAP. What's up, dude? Welcome to the stream. Okay. So at this point now, what we're going to do is head over to Thirdweb. Right? So you should have, after yesterday, have 2 different smart contracts. One resembling your marketplace and one resembling your NFT collection, right? Now, here's how it works. We're going to have an NFT collection, and the way it would work is you can add an item to your marketplace. So imagine we can go ahead and sign into our eBay app. So I'm going to show you a demo instead of explaining this. It's a lot easier. Okay, so what we're going to do is you've got your eBay app. You can go ahead and add an item to your inventory. So imagine this could be anything, right? It could be like a picture, it could be a sofa, it could be whatever it is. And remember, you're doing nothing really different to what eBay does, right? Because eBay, they'll be like, yeah, but what does the NFT resemble? It's the same thing. It's just, imagine it's just the item in a database, right? Think of it that way. So in this case, I'm gonna say, let's just say the PAPAFAM. Let me see what I've got in my pictures. I don't wanna blurt something out, but let me go ahead and pick something out right now, and I'll show you exactly of what we're gonna do right now. So in this case, imagine we had the eBay 5-day challenge, right? So imagine we're selling a laptop, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and select an image. I've gone ahead and clicked choose file. So I'm just showing you an example of how we are adding items to the marketplace. And imagine here I'll say eBay, laptop, description, Papa Reacts laptop, okay? And imagine we can add an item. So we're minting out the NFT, and that's gonna go ahead and do it, right? So in this case, that's how you would go ahead and do it. This is probably not gonna work because I'm on a different network, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what we're actually gonna do, but that's the flow that we can expect, right? So heading over here to our NFT collection, what you can do is, you can go ahead and actually, let me see, why can't I create this thing? There we go. Okay, I'm going to connect my wallet. Let's go ahead and connect the wallet, and I'm actually in the wrong account. That's why it's not working. So I'm going to go into the account that I created this with, and you can see we can see mint. Okay, so essentially what I would do here is I can go ahead and mint an item. So in this case, imagine I want to mint that laptop, right? So we're going to go ahead and say laptop. So you need to do this now because we're going to need some test data. Now notice I've got a bunch of test data here, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So I want you on your NFT collection contract, go to mint, and I want you to go ahead and make sure I'm in the this is a Mumbai contract. So I'm going to go ahead and say, and remember, if you don't have test cryptocurrency, so in this case, if I go here, you can see I've got a bunch of Matic to test with. Then all you need to do is go ahead and check this out. You just got to go ahead and type in Polygon Mumbai Faucet, Polygon Matic Faucet, whatever it is, right? It's very easy to find. And you just head over to one of these faucets, and you can go ahead and actually pop in your address right here. For example, you just literally grab this, copy it, bam, and then click submit, and you'll get your test tokens, right? So that'll give you some fake cryptocurrency you can test with. Now that's done, you're gonna add an example of an item. So I'm gonna say laptop. I'm gonna choose that same laptop file. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that item right now. I'm hiding my screen so that way I don't show anything I don't wanna show. Okay, so I've gone ahead, selected an image, and say this is Papa Reacts. So just say Papa Reacts laptop. Okay, you can add different properties and so forth. I've not actually incorporated that in this build. Then we click on mint, right? Now what minting is doing is essentially adding this NFT that resembles this laptop onto the blockchain, right? So it's adding this item onto the blockchain. It's actually storing it on this smart contract, right? So it's using the smart contract to do that. So we go ahead, go down. As you can see, I've got some test cryptocurrency. I'm going to confirm the transaction. So it's going to take a little bit of time because what this is actually doing is it's minting this item to the blockchain. So it's actually pushing it onto the real blockchain, and it's going to go ahead and store it there. So think of it as a database. It's kind of adding this item into the database, but it's a permanent database. It's really cool. All right, so that's actually gone ahead and worked. You can see successfully minted, and now you can see we've got the laptop. Right, so I need you to go ahead and add a bunch of different items in. Okay, so that's your first step. Now, once you've got a bunch of items in your NFT collection, what I then want you to do is head over to your marketplace, right? And the marketplace is essentially a smart contract, and I showed you how to deploy it yesterday. It's essentially a smart contract that you can go ahead and use to create either a direct listing or an auction listing. Now, the difference between these two is very simple. A direct listing, basically, there's a price, and you can buy the item by paying that price. And you can also make offers for that item, right? So that's where we're going to incorporate all of that in the next day. The auction listing is as it sounds. There's going to be a buyout price, but you can actually auction and basically bid up to that price in different sort of quantities. So imagine everyone's bidding up to that price, and then you could pay a buyout price if you really want to buy the thing, right? So let's go ahead and show you how you can go ahead and do it. So I've added a bunch of items or minted them. So I essentially own, you can see the owner here is me, right? So if I go over to my my NFT marketplace, I create a listing. Okay, now you can see there are no NFTs owned by this wallet. Well, there are now, so it just took a second to load. And here you can see the laptop. So I'm going to click the laptop and I'm going to say, look, direct or auction listing. So I'm going to make it a direct listing. It's going to be a Matic, so I'm using the Polygon network. And remember, if you use the Polygon network, make sure in your code it says Mumbai for the testnet. If you're using Gurley, you have to make sure in your code it said the chain ID was Gurley and so forth, right? It has to be consistent. At this point, the listing price, I would say give it a very small price, so that way you don't run through your test cryptocurrency. So in this case, I'm making it super cheap and I'm going to sell that laptop, right? So let's create the listing. And this is a transaction that's going to go ahead and push this listing, so the direct listing in this case, up into, so you see the create listing call is being called. Let's click confirm. And this smart contract is now adding this listing onto the blockchain. Right, so it's actually creating a listing for us. And essentially what we've just done here is we've added an item into our collection. So think of it as, that's literally a database. If you think about it, it's a database, but it's just so powerful how it's working, right? And then we've gone ahead and created a listing from that, right? So this is essentially kind of like the same thing we would have done in a database aspect. Now you can see the laptop is up for sale. So if we click on active, you can see the laptop is up for sale as a direct listing. So I've got a bunch of things here. I recommend you add a bunch of items, create a bunch of auction and direct listing examples. Now, if we click into it, you can see there's a bunch of information about it, and you can even cancel the listing. So the next step is naturally, how do I pull in this information? Okay, so how do I pull in my items to list and that kind of stuff so I can see it on our app? Okay, so in this case now, what we want to do is we essentially want to pull those listings, those active listings, into our application. Okay, so at this point, we should be able to pull them in and see our active listings, and we should be able to see the type of listing it is. So we're going to build that right now. That's going to be today's build. Then tomorrow, we're going to actually have the ability to list items, and also on the final day, we're going to actually have the ability to auction and make offers and that kind of stuff. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue on. We're doing really well for progress right now. Well done, guys, for sticking with me. Okay, so how do we pull in the active listings that we've gone ahead and created our test data from? Okay, and again, if you get stuck for this, remember, Facebook, Discord, that's the place to go for your support. Okay, so your homework today is going to actually be basically get this point up to this point, right? So at this point, what I need you to do is go ahead and copy this address. It's going to be very important in a second. Okay, then what I need you to do is head over to your file, and we're going to create something called an environment file. So in this case, we're going to say .env.local, and this is going to be for our environment variables. Now, what I need to do is I need to create a public variable. So we need to do next public, and this is important because Next will hide this variable from our client unless we use it. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and say marketplace contract. So marketplace contract, and you want to go ahead and copy your marketplace contract. So this one for you, right? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here. Right, but I'm not going to show mine, otherwise, you know, it might get spammed away and all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to do the same thing for your collection contracts. So remember, we have two different things: the collection and the marketplace. So you want to copy these values, and then I need you to go ahead and paste it in and save this file. So I'm going to do that right now, hide the page, and then save the file. And you can do the exact same thing and do it on your side, right? So I'm just doing it right now. I'm going ahead and I've pasted in my values, and then I've gone ahead and saved the file and I've closed it. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done that. If I go over to my terminal, I need to restart the terminal because we've updated our environment variables. And yes, they do that automatically now, but I like to be extra safe. All right, so we're going ahead and restarted our terminal, and we hit refresh. No errors, we're all good. Okay, so we've got our environment variables, which resemble our marketplace and our NFT collection, all set. Okay, so this is looking pretty good right now. Then what we're going to do is we need to pull in those active listings. So how the hell do we do that, right? Well, it's very simple. What we need is, firstly, we need a connection to the marketplace. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a handy hook from Thirdweb called the use contract hook. And what this will allow us to do is connect to our marketplace, so that way we can perform different actions off of it. So it's very simple, and they've made it, honestly, the developer experience is incredible from the guys over at Thirdweb. So really hats off to the team. They're an amazing team as well. If they're watching right now, what's up guys, right? So in this case, we've got the use contract, use active listings, and media renderer. Well, we're gonna use all these in a sec. So we're gonna use the contract hook first, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say const, and we're gonna go, I'm gonna say const. We're gonna destructure a contract out of it. And we're gonna say equals use contract. And this takes two arguments, okay? The first is the contract address, and the second is the marketplace term, okay? So the contract address, yes, you could paste in your value here, but remember, we added it to our environment variables, and that's because we're gonna use it later on for our deployment step. So in this case, we're gonna say process.environment. This is how we access our environment variables. And then we're gonna go ahead and actually pop in this. And this will basically replace it with whatever value I put in my environment file, okay? Yoni says, Next seems hard. Can I use regular React? It's not hard. It just takes practice. So do not quit. Do it, right? Trust me, it'll pay off, right? Then we're going to do comma, and we're going to hit a string, right? And as you can see, all the different types of predefined smart contracts are here. So in this case, you can have custom contracts if you want, but we're going to use the marketplace contract, okay? So now this contract object gives me access to all the good stuff. So if I do dot, you see I get all this kind of cool stuff that I can go ahead and access, right? But they even made it even easier for us, right? So in this case, what I can do is I can go ahead and use this use active listings to pull in my active listings from my marketplace. So I'm going to go ahead and use that right now. And we're going to destructure the result that comes back, right? But instead, we're going to go ahead and say use active listings. And now we pass in that contract that we just went ahead and initialized. So think about what's happening. We're using this use active listings hook, and we're passing in the contract, which basically connects to our marketplace, okay? So once we've done that, we get back a bunch of different things, right? And so in here, if you do control spacebar, you can see all the different items that you're going to get back. Now, what I like to do is I'm going to get the data object, but I'm going to rename it to listings, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and get the is loading state, and I'm going to get I'm going to rename this to loading listings, okay? So hit save. Now we've got our base for checking things out. So what I want to do here is console log listings, hit save, go ahead and inspect the console. I'm going to make this a bit bigger now. Oops, sorry. Make this bigger. And what you should see, guys, on your screen is this is my own error. Don't worry about that. That's actually some extension I've got added, right? Go ahead and you should see that we pull in all of our direct and all of our auctions. It should come through. So we've got 7 auctions. That's correct. We've got 7. And the last one should be the laptop. So we can see the Papa React's laptop. Hey, there we go. There it is, right? So this is looking awesome right now. We're actually pulling in all those direct listings. So you see it's actually damn powerful for what we're doing, right? So this is pretty cool. A very small amount of code, and we've literally got it in. So now what I can do is I can use that to build out these items that you see right here. Okay, so that's exactly what we're going to do. So underneath here, I'm going to create a section called main. And inside of here, I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to do a little ternary operator for the loading state, right? So first I'm going to say, if we're loading the listings, then I'm going to render something on the screen. Otherwise, I'm going to render out the output. Okay. So the first up on what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if we're rendering this out, I'm going to say a p tag, and this is going to say loading listings. Okay. Now, after that, I'm going to have let's just put in a div, right? Saying, for now, I'm just going to write listings, and then we'll replace this in a sec. Thank you so much. Wanu says, "Son, you're so good at coding. You really make me love coding." Thank you, dude. I really glad I have that effect on you. Right, if we refresh now, you see it says loading listings, and then when it pops in, that's once it's loaded. Okay. I love this song. All right, let's go. So at this point, we've got loading listings. I'm going to style this out a little bit. For the loading listings, I'm going to say the text should be central. So text center. And I'm going to say animate it as well. So animate posts. I really like this about Tailwind CSS. And the text should be blue of 500. Okay. And I want to text center it. Yeah, we've done that already. Okay. So now you should see if I refresh, refresh, it should be central saying loading listings. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to do ... as well. Okay, so loading listings and then it pops in. All right, nice. Now for the listings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and render out all the items inside of here. But firstly, I'm going to prepare my container. So the container that's going to hold everything, this one's going to be a grid. Now, as you can see here, this is a grid of 4. And as it gets smaller, we go ahead and adapt. It becomes a grid of 3, it becomes a grid of 2, and it becomes a grid of 1, right? So I remember, Tailwind CSS is by default mobile. So we start with a grid column of 1. And as we get bigger, we add 2, 3, 4, and so forth, right? So that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So we're going to say by default on the mobile view, it's grid columns 1. And then as it gets bigger, so on the small screen, it becomes grid columns 2. And then as we get bigger and bigger and bigger and so forth, it's going to go ahead and keep giving us an extra column, right? So this is so easy to do it this way. And basically I don't like writing CSS grid the normal way with CSS. I love CSS grid, but I hate the normal CSS way of doing it. But with Tailwind CSS, it really makes life easy, right? Now, if I want to have this gap between all my components inside, I can add this gap by using the gap utility class, very simply. And if I want to center it afterwards, I can say MX auto. Okay, so now all the items inside of here, once I add them in, are going to have this grid approach. Okay, so really, really clean, really nice stuff. Now, before we do anything further, I'm going to style out my main container by having that max width constraint that we had earlier as well. So we don't want to have that awkward annoyingness, right, where it basically stretches out to the end of the screen. So padding of 2, MX auto. So now whatever we add here, it's going to go ahead and have the the nice kind of restricted, max width look to it. Before we carry on, quick little water break. Amazing retention right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're nearly at the end. So bear with me, guys. Right, we're moving at very good speed right now. So now what we can do is we've got access to our listings, right? So we're going to go ahead and map through all the listings and show it on the screen. So here I'm going to say listings map, and we're using a condition. This is called optional chaining. So that way, if it's undefined, it's not going to freak out and die on us. Although the listings will come back, but they could be, they could come back empty, for example. So for every single listing item, we're going to do a parentheses and return some data back, right? So we're going to have the div, which resembles each listing. And in this case, if I just do P and say this is a listing, I'll show you an example of what happens. Okay, so you see this is a listing, and look, the grid will actually come into effect. So you can see it actually works really well, right? So whenever you use maps in React, you have to give each individual item a key, which is unique to that item. The reason about this is React has a very clever way of efficiently kind of re-rendering lists. If you don't give it a key, and for example, we add in another element to the end of a list, imagine there's 1,000 items. We don't want to re-render 1,000 just because we added one at the end, right? But if we give everything keys, it will only render in that last element. If you don't give keys, it re-renders all the 1,000 elements on the page, right? So you don't want to do that. Vanya D says, tuning in from Canada. Great job, Sunny and team. Thank you. Amazing to have you here, and thanks for tuning in. So for the key, we're going to give it something called the listing ID. Right? Listing.id. And look how nice IntelliSense is, right? That's what TypeScript's all about. So we're then going to go ahead and say it should be a flex container. So we're styling out this container right here, right? So flex, then we're going to say flex column. I'm going to say that it should have a utility class called card, and I'm going to write that in a second, right? And I want to have it, when it hovers over it, I'm going to scale it 105, so 105%. I'm going to add a nice little transition as well. So I'm going to add transitions to everything here. Duration of 150 milliseconds, and it's going to be ease out, which means I'll show you what that happens. So basically, as I hover over it, you see how it scales, and there's an animation and there's a time between it, right? If I want to slow it down, I change the duration, but that's how you essentially give that effect. Right? If I get rid of transition and duration, it'll just snap. And ease out means it quickly goes in and it eases out afterwards. So it quickly in, eases out, right? That's essentially what's happening. So let's create that little custom card class. So we're going to go over here to card, at apply. Oops, my God. Okay, at apply. And now we're going to go ahead and pop in the styles for the class, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do this in real time. So I'm going to add a border, hit save. And as you can see, as I save things in, you'll go ahead and see it in real time pop in. So I'm going to say rounded MD. There you go. We get a nice rounded corner. Give it a padding of 5 and things are going to start popping in. And notice even that animated, right? So if I gave it a bloody 10, look at that, 5. Like, it just has a smooth, okay, I messed that one up. 5, there you go. Okay. And BG gray of 50, very subtle background. Okay. And if I give that a red, you'll even see that even that will animate, right? So if you ever want to kind of, know how it works, that's how you do it. Give it a cursor pointer, so that way we know it's clickable. And then I'm going to say, when I hover over it, I want it to change to a 100. Yep. Now you can see, look at that. Oof, that is clean, right? That looks good. Look at that, guys. Looks really, really nice. Okay. So we can go ahead and actually make this a listing at this point, right? We don't want to just show this. We want to actually show some cool stuff behind it. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and have a div. Rather than this, I'm going to have a div inside. And this div is going to have an image inside of it. Now, they give us back this media renderer, right? This media renderer is a really nice way of rendering out images from the returned listing asset, right? So in this case, I can say source. And we can go ahead and say listing.asset.image. And if we do that, we're going to get in all the images from the items in the auction, right? Somebody says, I'm adding dark mode side by side. Shrida, that's what I'm talking about. Jacopo, thank you for tuning in. It says nice. All right. So in this point, we're looking good. I'm going to restrain the width by saying width of 44. There you go. That's a bit more manageable. And for this div, we're going to go ahead and say it should have a flex 1 value because I want it to take up the majority of the space. Flex column, padding bottom of 2, and items should be centrally aligned. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and add in a div underneath it. Now inside of here, we're going to have a few different sections, right? So this is what we're doing right now. This is taking up the absolute most space it can. You see the image, and then we've got these divs and this kind of stuff happening underneath. So in this first div, I want to have a H2, right? So we've got a div inside of a div, right? So I'm going to have a div here, and inside of the div, I've got a H2 value. Sorry, oops, an H2 value. And inside of here, I'm going to go ahead and have the asset name. Okay. So this is going to have listing.asset.name. And as you can see now, we've got all the listing asset names pulling in from Thirdweb, right? And then we're going to have a horizontal row underneath it and a p tag underneath that. Here we're going to have the asset description. So listing.asset.description. And it's not always going to be there. So only the PAPAFAM playlist in this example has it, or the Papa Reacts laptop, right? But you can basically feel free to add it as you wish. Okay. Now for that description, if it gets too long, I need to truncate it. So that way it doesn't go flying off the screen. Now truncate just means it says ... if it becomes too long. We're going to make it a small bit of text, make it gray 600. And then we're going to go ahead and say margin top of 2, right? So you can see that's become a little bit nicer at the bottom bit there. For the H2, we're going to style it. We're going to say the text should be large. So, oops, text should be large, and we're going to truncate that as well, right, in case it gets too long. Okay, so very clean, looking good so far. Now, on this overall div, I'm going to say that this should have a padding top of 2 and a space between the Y elements inside of it of 4. Y elements of 4, space, Y elements of 4. There we go. Okay, nice. Now, underneath this div, where's my div gone? Underneath this div, we're going to have another p tag, and this p tag is going to have the buyout currency. So in this case, basically the amount followed by the currency that we're selling in. Okay, so I'll show you how we do this. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say span, and I'm going to have a class name, so font bold, and this first basically bit of text is going to go ahead. Kag says, by the way, great energy, please share your music list too. Remember, sign up to the challenge, papareact.com/challenge, and you're going to get access to everything, including the PAPAFAM playlist, right? So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say listing dot buyout currency value per token display value. So you can see now that gives us the value that we're basically selling at. And then after the span tag, so after the bold aspect of it, we're going to go listing dot buyout currency per value dot currency. It's actually symbol. I mean, it's symbol. Now you can see it's Matic, and so forth. So it depends on what network you're on, but that's how you basically dynamically pull in which one you're after. Okay. So that's already looking pretty good, guys. Okay. So after that, what I'm going to do is, so those two elements inside of that p tag, what you can do is you can actually go ahead and say space x of 2. Oh no, sorry, I've actually messed that up. No, you don't do that. After the span, what you can simply do is margin right of 2. That's fine. Just give it a little bit of breathing room, or even margin right of 1 is enough. There you go. Okay. So you got, that's the currency underneath it. And then underneath this p tag, we're going to have another div. And this is going to go ahead and be responsible now for what type it is. So is it auction or is it buy now? Okay. So here I'm going to have a p tag, which is going to go ahead and have a ternary inside of it. And this is going to say listing.type, right? And what we can do here is we can use something called the listing type. So this is basically a type definition from Thirdweb, which is basically a class. And what we can do is we can say, is it an auction or is it a direct? Right? And we can do a comparison based on the response type, as that is of type listing type. So in this case, I'm gonna say if it's a direct auction, I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's gonna return a string value of buy now. Otherwise, it will say it's an auction. Okay. So as you can see, auction, buy now, auction, buy now, and so forth. Looking very nice. Okay. So underneath that, I'm going to have an icon based on what type it is as well. So I'm going to say listing type. If it's a listing type direct, I'm going to go ahead and do the following, or this. So basically, if it's of listing type direct, I'm going to have banknotes icon. Oops. The banknotes icon. And again, I'm importing this from the hero icons at the top. Otherwise, I'm going to render out the clock icon. Okay. Like so. Okay, so a clock icon at the top. And there you go. In this case, you can see we've got a buy now, we've got a clock. Obviously, that looks horrible. I'm going to fix that. So we're going to give these both a class name height of 4. So it's small. And then we're going to go ahead and actually style it so that way they're sitting next to each other. Okay. Now, what you can do here is we're going to go ahead and have some dynamic values in here. So we're going to do a backticks for string interpolation, right? So we're going to go ahead and say flex, firstly, pull it in a row. Items center to go ahead and actually align this stuff. Space between these things of 1, so space x of 1. Justify end pushes it to the end of the box that it's in, okay? And then we can go ahead and say text should be extra small. Give it a border. We only want to fit that border. So if I didn't get rid of fit, you'll see that it's a whole thing. So width fit means only fit the sort of space that we require. Margin left auto, which is going to basically push it all the way to the side. Padding of 2. Round the corners out with a large value. So round them out. And then I'm going to say that the text is white, right? But this is the cool bit. Text is white. So what we can do is, as we're using string interpolation here, we can actually have dynamic JavaScript values by adding in this syntax, $ with curly brackets. Now I can basically go ahead and say, if the listing type is listing type dot direct, I'm going to add in certain colors, right? And this is going to dynamically be pulling. So in this case, I'm going to say, if it's a direct auction, I'm going to say it's a blue background. Otherwise, it's background red 500. Okay. What have I messed up? We've got this. Sorry, I've done if the listing type is equal to. There we go. Save. And now, what's so cool about this is if it's an auction, it's going to be a background color. There you go. Look at that. That's so clean. It's so clean. All right. Looking good. The only thing that we've messed up right now is it's not centered, and on this screen doesn't look right, right? So to fix that, we're gonna head over to our, where have we gone? I haven't styled up my div in the correct way yet. So we need to go ahead and I've got my div, my image, and so forth. Flex one, let's see, flex column, card. Oh yeah, card. Oh, we did do card. Right, we need to, I think I've forgotten to do the width of. So the only thing that's kind of off is this ain't centering correctly. So it's going to be somewhere regarding my image itself. So where I have my image, we've got flex. Oh yeah, here we are. I forgot to add flex. There we go. That's why it wasn't centering. So I had flex column, but it wasn't centering. Okay. There we go. So with that said, look at that, guys. Actually incredible for what we just did in that time, right? That's nuts. Look at that, right? And if you do want to space it in a bit more so it's kind of more breathable, you can always go ahead, go to your surrounding container and put a padding of 5 or something like that, right? So now you can see it's actually breathing a bit more easier on the sides, right? And if you wanted, you could go ahead and leave that as padding X of 2 or padding Y of 2, padding X of something like 6, right? And then now you can see it's breathing a bit more easy on the sides, right? Look at that. Look at that. So clean, guys. Right? So that is literally the front end portion with authentication, and we're pulling in our values dynamically from the backend. So if we go ahead and refresh, you should be able to see that this is pulling in our listings from Thirdweb, the marketplace contract that we went ahead and deployed yesterday. These exactly right here, pulling it in onto our application. So incredibly powerful, right? So this is going to be the stopping point for day 2, and this is basically going to be what you need to submit. So what I'm going to do next is show you how to deploy this to Vercel, so that way you can go ahead and submit your homework and get those bonus points in. Right? And you guys can see there's incredible amount of power, right? Not only did we actually mint our own NFTs here, we went ahead and created a smart marketplace contract which has direct and auction listings. Bloody crazy, actually crazy, right? So at this point, what you want to do is head over to GitHub. Right? If you haven't got a GitHub account, create one. You should have a GitHub account if you're a developer. Right? Then you want to go ahead and create a repo. At the top, you want to click on new repo. Right? In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create a repo called eBay clone Thirdweb YouTube. Right? So I'm just naming it a long thing right now. I'm making mine private. You can go ahead and create your repository. Right? Once you're done with that, you need to look at this line right here. So copy that line, head over to your code, and what you need to do is Command J, go into your separate terminal, and you want to paste that. And what this is doing is it's connecting your code basically to that GitHub repo that we just created. Now you can see we've got 8 unchecked in changes, right? So what we want to do is we need to go ahead and add these to basically like commit these changes, so that way we can push this code to GitHub. As you can see, GitHub is empty right now. So what I want you to do here is type in git add all, right? So what this is doing is it's staging all the commits. So you could even click the plus. So now all of our changes are staged. You can check that by saying git status, everything should be green. Then you want to go ahead and say git commit -m, and you basically type in a message. Or you could do it here and hit commit, right? In this case, I'm going to say it's just the initial app. Hit enter, and as you can see, this has committed those changes. The only thing I have left to do is go ahead and push this upward to the GitHub. So if I hit enter, you can see it gives me a command here saying git push set upstream. Copy that, paste it in, and now what this is doing is it's pushing that code up to GitHub. So if I go to my GitHub, hit refresh, this will now be on GitHub. Right? So we've successfully pushed it. You can see the commit message initial app. And then what we want to do is deploy this to Vercel. So Vercel is responsible for actually going ahead and allowing all Next.js apps to kind of go ahead and host, do their clever stuff over on that side. So what we do is we head over to Vercel. It's a very simple deployment, right? So we're going to go ahead and click on add new project. And what you should see right now is if we click continue with GitHub, I've already logged in. So you can see we've got the eBay clone Thirdweb YouTube, the one that I just committed just now, see? We click on import. And now all you have to do is set up the environment variables. So remember previously we had 2 environment variables that we set up. Inside of your files, you'll actually have an environment local file. So I'm going to click into this, but I'm going to hide my things before I do, right? So you will have 2 values here. So this is going to say like, you know, it's going to have a value here and a value here. I'm going to hide this for a second, right? So this is basically going to be what you need to go ahead and pop in, right? So the marketplace contract, if we head over to our Vercel, you're going to pop in this and then give your marketplace contract value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my marketplace contract value and I'm going to paste it in and click add. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm pasting it in, I clicked add, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the next value. So I'm hiding my screen right now because I don't want everyone to go crazy and do the same thing. But basically you want to do the exact same thing for the second value, the collection contract. So I'm popping in the name and the value of the NFT collection. Okay, so I'm doing that right now, and I'm going to go ahead and click add. Okay, so once that's done, I'm going to hide my environment variables so that way you guys can't go crazy on my code. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and undo this. All right, so now heading back. Let's go over here. As you can see now, we can go ahead and click deploy, right? So once you've done this, what's gonna happen is Vercel is gonna go ahead, build out our app, go ahead, use it, set everything up using the environment variables that we gave it, and it's gonna deploy it to a beautiful URL. That is where I need you to take that URL and go ahead and submit it on the homework link. So I've actually gone ahead and I'll show you while we're waiting for that, an actual deployed version. So in this case, it's gone ahead and my old version deployed to this app right here. And right now you can see it's just deploying it. So I'll show you after that's done. But what you want to do is you want to go to the homework submission link, right? So day 2 homework submission, head down, make sure you filled out all of these steps, including signing up to the final day event. That's where I'm going to give away all the freebies and the ultimate roadmap training for becoming a badass developer in year 2022, right? So in this case, head down to here, put your name, email, and you want to go ahead and paste in your Vercel link. And I'll show you how to get that Vercel link in just a second. If you had any issues, partially complete, otherwise fully complete. Right, and you can email a copy of response, whatever, right, and click submit. That's how you're going to submit your homework. And then it's always good after that to come into Facebook, take a screenshot of this saying I submitted my homework, give me those damn points, right? And that's going to help me spot whoever's ahead of the game, right? So this will be done in just a second, and then I can actually show you an example of how it would actually deploy, right? So this is literally, this is a real deployment right now. It's going to be live, and we're going to be able to push our code to this and actually keep triggering redeployments for tomorrow and the day after, right? Now I do want to mention, what did we do today? Right? We went ahead and built out the front end and authentication portion of the build. We set up our first NFTs and our auction and direct listings. Then we pulled in those values from the Thirdweb marketplaces, and we went ahead and built out this front end. Someone's asking to see the package JSON. Yes, that's actually a good point. So remember, these are the versions that we're using if you're watching a replay of this right now. If you're having any issues, 3.4.2 for the Thirdweb dev SDKs and for the React and SDK packages, right? So these two, there you go, right? That's what we're using for our dependencies. Okay, so at that point, you should be able to get this, right? So after it's deployed, you get this beautiful screen. So I want you to go ahead and click it. You'll get a nice little URL pop up. So in this case, I've got my nice little URL. It'll load the listings in. Hopefully everything goes well. Fingers crossed. Wait for it. It's always tense when I'm live. The demo goes on me. There you go. Bam. Works. Right, that's live right now. So you can literally go to that and check it out for yourself. But you can see we can actually connect our wallet, go ahead and authenticate ourselves. So that's actually proven, it's worked. There you go. Bam, just like that, right? And I'm actually popping that into the chat right now so you guys can feel free to see for yourself that that's a real website, right? So now what I want you to do is submit your homework and then go ahead and get a chance at getting those prizes. Now, what is happening tomorrow? Right? So tomorrow I will review your submissions. Everyone's going to get shouted out for your amazing bonus points and that good stuff. And then we're going to go ahead and build out the next portion of the app, right? So what we're actually going to build tomorrow is the ability to add an item to the inventory, right? So you can actually go ahead and do that minting step that I showed you earlier. So this step, we're going to go ahead and add that in this page. And then we're going to have the ability to list an item from your wallet into the marketplace, okay? So tomorrow we're going to do the minting and the listing portion of the build. And then on day 4, so the third technical day, we're going to go ahead and have the item product screen. So that's where you can actually click into an item. It will load the item on the screen and you can buy, bid, and so forth on that item, right? So you can actually go ahead and accept offers, make offers, depending on if it's a bid or a buy now. If it's a buy now, you can go ahead and do buy now offers and that kind of cool stuff, right? So you can make an offer, accept it if you're the owner of the seller and so forth. So all this cool stuff to come. If you've enjoyed it, let me know by smashing the thumbs up, right? And if you get stuck on anything, Facebook and Discord is the way to go. On that note, I'm going to wrap up with our very, as we have to do it, right? We have to do it with the PAPAFAM anthem every time, right? So this has been day 2 of the 5-day eBay challenge. wrapping things off, we built out this beautiful responsive header component which responds to everything that we're doing. It's got this lovely, auction. We're pulling in our auctions. These are real NFTs on blockchain technology right now. This is actually up on the blockchain, on the testnet. Mumbai network is what we're using. Remember, if you get any issues, you just have to go to a Mumbai faucet, a Polygon faucet, stock up your crypto, and then you should be able to deploy the contracts out, right? As in mint your NFTs, do all that stuff. But with that said, this is your homework for day two. I hope you've enjoyed the build. And as always, guys, smash the thumbs up button. Let us know, when you submit that homework in the Facebook and in the Discord channels. Help each other out. This is a community. This is the PAPAFAM. And if you want to take things further, head over to papareact.com/course and join us over at 0 to Full Stack Hero. I will see you in day 3 of the build. It's your boy, Sunny. And yeah, we're going to keep crushing this 5-day challenge. Peace, guys.